Okay, you guys. So, as you could tell by the title of this video, talking how Hasbro has handled the Unicron Trilogy updates the last couple years since they were introduced in the Generations line in 2022. It was a glorious time when we first learned about that and when the Cybertron Metroplex was first leaked and the override, and then it's been history ever since. So I'm kind of just going through most, if not all of these releases. I may be forgetting a figure or two because as much as it seems like a lot of this is repaints, which is true, there has been quite a few releases the last couple years, which I'm really happy to see. But there's also a lot of things that Hasbro needs to improve on going forward with these releases, which hopefully they do with the upcoming listings that we have for hopefully a new Vector Prime, and then we have the Red Alert Minicon pack. We have Armada Voyager Sideways, and some other stuff I'm probably forgetting. But, I'm just going to go through this list semi in order, from Armada to Energon to Cybertron, and also semi in order of when these figures were released, but don't count on it, okay? But first up here, let's talk about Armada Starscream that was released in 2022. And he's missing a lot of paint. He's obviously missing his minicon. The sword accessory is kind of just thrown in there. It would have been nice if his wing actually transformed into the sword, considering the figure overall is kind of simple for the Voyager class price and everything, but I guess that's the name of the game the last couple years with Voyager class stuff. And obviously the Star Saber accessory is so small and dinky. It was better suited for Hotshot. It was kind of like a precursor upgrade kit accessory for that Hotshot Deluxe that came out, I'm pretty sure a few months after this Starscream. And yeah, he's good in terms of the overall figure, but his accessories and the paint were just very lackluster. I just don't understand it still. But overall, pretty good figure. And now moving along to Hotshot. Again, I think he's a decent figure, but, just in terms of the paint and the accessories, he does have his engine gun and he's got his flip out wheel cannon thing and his flip down visor, which I do really like. But again, he's missing his minicon. The whole thing about Armada is the minicons, and none of these figures have it, unless if we're talking about some exclusives. And the whole way he's engineered on his legs, the hollowness feels way unnecessary. It feels like they were cutting the budget way too much on him, considering he's already a pretty simplistic deluxe. And just the way the lower legs transform with the windshield kibble, they should have put some of that on his arms, and they made a way for the rest of it to wrap around to fill in the hollowness on the inner part of those legs. Still to this day, that bugs me so much about this figure. But overall, if you're just looking at the Hotshot mold by itself, it is still pretty good, and it's, in my opinion, a big improvement over the original Deluxe and the Universe 2008 Deluxe as well. And then you jump into the repaint of Hotshot. I also forgot to talk about the repaint for Starscream. I'm going to do that right after. So, Hotshot here, you got the Power Links repaint, which is a reference to G1 Hot Rod and stuff like that. And I think they did better here in terms of, I guess you could say, the deco and him including his minicon. Even though I'm pretty sure it's the wrong colored minicon. So again, it's like an upgrade kit for that Hotshot figure, which is kind of funny. They did that with 2 releases. He comes with the guns, the blast effects, which is a bit of an improvement. He's got a new head sculpt, which he has the more like grinning expression where he's like gritting his teeth and stuff, which is cool. But again, it's the same issues plaguing this mold, so it kind of brings it down for me. And then talking about the Starscream repaint here with, why do I look like Thundercracker? It's a good mold, but he's kind of missing some paint that would have been nice. Since it's Takara, he is painted better than he probably would be if he was done over at Hasbro. So that's good at least. But, they ruined this release because he was supposed to be here in the States as a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, I'm pretty sure, and from what I remember, he was never stocked at Hasbro because Takara basically didn't make enough copies of this figure. It sold out over in Japan, I'm pretty sure, with Takara, and we didn't get anything here in the States, so he had to import it and pay outrageous prices for was essentially just a $35 figure. Pretty sure I had to pay like $80 for this, which is insanity. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, so hopefully Hasbro releases an American version here at some point soon. That would be nice. And then we get into the Megatron mold, which is decent, okay, I'll say that, but the way they handled the shoulder kibble is ridiculous. You could barely get his arms to move naturally the way it would want. I think Fans Hobby did this way better, making it a separate joint, the tank tread, so you could move it along with the arms while still making it, its own separate piece, which I do think is nice. That is way better than what Hasbro did, and frankly, they took the cheaper route, even though this figure costed $55, which is insanity to me. And he's got the hollow forearms. He should have had a panel that folded over, especially for the price, and especially for how simplistic he is as a leader class figure in terms of his engineering. And to top it all off, again, he didn't come with his Minicon, which I was kind of expecting back in the day a couple years ago, because, again, he's a very simple character to design, especially for his price. So, I don't know, they just dropped the ball with some integral things, in my opinion, and yeah, man, I just don't like how they handled a lot with this guy. And same issues with the Galvatron repaint. Sure, the expression for his head is a bit cooler and everything, but, the paint is decent, but it's just the same issues with the mold. And then, moving along to Big Daddy himself, one of the craziest modern releases Hasbro's done, Commander Class Armada Optimus. And, surface level, he's a great figure. If you're just looking at things through, just one layer. But once you get down and you kind of break down the figure and you really go into it in depth, I've talked about this here on the channel, but a lot of people see what I'm saying, but there's also some people who are like, what are you talking about? This figure is amazing. It's top 5 Hasbro chug stuff, bro. Which, I would not say that. There's a lot of stress marks that happen on some of these pieces. There's been breakage problems reported with the lower leg section of the core robot mode for Optimus. He's got the weird clamp hands where they didn't do the retractable 5mm port like they did with Jetfire, which they should have with Optimus. So that just looks ugly, and he's missing a ton of paint. And again, for a figure that's $90 and, for the price point, he's kind of simplistic to me. Because, a lot of the Unicron Trilogy stuff, they were simplistic in terms of engineering and transformation. So it's going to apply here to Optimus. And again, he's missing his Minicon, but he's a figure, after it's all said and done with the fees and everything, you're paying like $100 for it. And he still doesn't come with his Minicon partner, Sparkplug. That has always been a big issue to me, the pricing and the lack of Minicon, and the fact they didn't give him a waist swivel in core robot mode when I'm pretty sure the Fans Hobby figure did. That is just ridiculous to me, guys. Just all those issues, especially with the breakage problems, and people are like, oh my god, the plastic quality is so good with this figure. In some parts, yes, but then in other parts, it's freaking cheap. It's like the plastic quality of a deluxe figure with some of these pieces, so yeah, I think it's a little overhyped, and of course, his eye color is wrong. They couldn't paint it red for whatever reason, which sucks. So, yeah, just a ton of issues with this figure once you really break it down. And now, getting into the Nemesis Prime repaint, I think the big issue here is he doesn't have his trailer, so he's kind of just half of a figure. He had the trailer in the cartoon, and I just don't know what else to say about this. It just feels like a weird release to me. It's cool, but it's just something that I feel like they should have done as trailer. And it was just weird seeing Hasbro advertise it at San Diego Comic-Con, showing off how he could still combine with the lower half of Optimus, like people would really do that because it looks terrible, And then going into Red Alert here, one of the best Unicron Trilogy updates we've gotten. I just recently picked up this figure, and I think he's great. The only thing that I could say is he's missing his Minicon, and he just feels kind of a shell of a figure, like most modern updates compared to some of the old figures. But overall, great figure. Nothing really too much to complain about there. But getting into Armada Wheeljack, which people still like to call a sideswipe, I mean, whatever. But this guy, he's good. I just recently got him too. But again, he's missing his minicon when he's a simplistic, slight retool of a figure that was already very simple in terms of engineering for a deluxe. You can just pack in a repainted minicon for him, considering you've made your money back like twice over with this mold over the last 6 years with all the repaints and retools you've done with it. You couldn't throw the fans a bone just a little bit here? Like, I would have taken the minicon instead of the missile launcher rack that I'm pretty sure he never used in the Unicron trilogy. The swords, they're cool, but I feel like they should have been just a tad bit longer. And, of course, you know, I just don't really like this mold. He needs his door wing things on his arms, and he doesn't have that. It's kind of just mediocre, even though, you know, as is, he's still a decent figure. But just all those issues with him, he just brings it down for me. And then getting to Energon, the most pathetic thing we've gotten so far, we just have a Core Class Megatron and a Galvatron repaint. Are you kidding me? This is considered to be the fandom's, like, one of their favorite Megatron designs in the franchise. And because of what some weirdo 50-year-old G1ers still say 20 years later, stuck in 2004, saying Energon sucks, because of that, you can't just do figures that people actually want. Just because people don't like the show doesn't mean people don't want the toys. There's a ton of demand for Energon stuff, especially since Unicron Trilogy kids are getting older. I grew up on Energon. Believe it or not, it was the first cartoon I saw after watching the 2007 movie. And as somebody who's a fan of it, I am pissed at how Hasbro's handling Energon. We need more than just a dinky core class figure of a design that should have been leader class at least. I've made the argument on the channel he should be a commander class, which might be a separate video, but I just hope, man, we get more Energon outside of a boring core class release from over a year ago. And going into Cybertron, Metroplex. He's a fantastic figure. I own him. He's great. Probably one of the best articulated Titan class figures we have, if not the best, but he's missing his minicon for the price. And he's kind of a simplistic Titan, and he's lacking some of the mass of the previous Titans, so you would think they would have made that go into him getting his minicon that would have been well articulated and well painted and stuff like that. But no, we didn't get him at all. You have to get a DNA design upgrade kit that I think is like $50 just to get his minicon, which is insanity to me. I hate that. But yeah, that's like my main issue. But everything else is great with this Metroplex. Override. My main issue with this, outside of lacking in paint in some areas, she's a way better figure than the original Deluxe. I really do like this figure. I own it. But my thing is, why... The whole price point of her being a Voyager, I think she should have came with a couple extra accessories or added some extra engineering to her, like articulated hands or something like that, because she just feels like a Deluxe with slightly better plastic quality. That's really all she's ever felt like to me, and the pinned-in wheels and stuff. I get it, she was an exclusive, so they needed to shell out some extra budget or whatever, but I'm still puzzled till this day why she is a Voyager class, $35. But overall, still a great figure, one of the better Unicron Trilogy updates we've gotten in the modern era. And next up here, we have Hotshot. A good figure, I own it, but I have to say, it's an improvement over the original Deluxe, but the hollowness brings this figure down so much. It just feels like a shell of a figure. And because of how simplistic he is, I'm really not understanding why they needed to hollow him out so much. It really makes it feel just cheap to handle and just ugly to look at. If you do photography and stop motions in certain angles, it just doesn't look that good. So that's my main gripe with him. And then moving along here, Cannonball. It's a decent repaint. You know, it's kind of like an amalgamation of the Cybertron and Prime repaint. I think it's good. but just that crankcase mold is terrible. The panel behind his head, glued to his head, looks awful. I just do not like this mold, and the way they did the legs is so ugly. And then Sideways, again, one of the better Unicron Trilogy updates we've gotten. I think he's a decent figure. I don't have him, but just judging by the looks, he looks pretty good. I already have the original figure, so there's no need for me to get this version. The figure, he's just missing a ton of paint and some sculpted details that you got on the original. It really kind of makes him a bit boring than the design really should be. That's my main gripe with this, but overall still a pretty good figure for today's standards. And then we have the Excellion repaint, which is good. Really no complaints there, just the same stuff that I'm saying about the Hotshot mold. And then we had the canceled figures from that, which I really don't want to go into. I'm still pissed about that. And then we have Cybertron Starscream, which, again, I'd say is one of the better Unicron Trilogy updates, but the clear plastic swords, they break off too easily. One of my swords broke off and snapped, which I'm pissed about, so I'm just sticking with the original Vorja mold and that MP Starscream that released in 2017. Those are my two picks. I'm not messing with this mold anymore. That's like a major gripe of mine, but everything else is still good with the figure if you don't care about your clear plastic features breaking on your figure. And Vector Prime, I mean, there's really not much to go into that I haven't said the last year on the channel multiple times. Like, just look at this thing and compare it to the original design, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. It is a pathetic retool. Jaxus gets a new mold, which is basically a C-list G2 Decepticon villain. But Vector Prime, who's like an A-list prime and hero in the franchise, he is a Jaxus retool for no reason. It's ridiculous, and just to save money. I hate it. Hopefully that new Vector Prime next year is a new mold. That would be nice. And then lastly, I actually forgot to talk about the when I was going through the Armada stuff, the Titan class tidal wave. Again, I'd say he's one of the better Unicron Trilogy updates. He's a really nice figure, but I just like the Fans Hobby design and size better. And he has a lot more features, and he's a little bit cheaper than this Titan class. I think he's like $20 cheaper than this Titan class. So I'm just going with the Fans Hobby on this. The hands are not good. He's missing his Minicon again, which for how small and simplistic this tidal wave is, he should have came with his Minicon. He's smaller than the Metroplex, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, there's just a lot of features missing. His Minicon is missing, and I think they just could have went a bit harder in terms of his engineering for the $200 price point. But overall, still a pretty good figure, one of the better Unicron Trilogy updates. But yeah, guys, let me know down below. What do y'all think about all the Unicron Trilogy updates we've gotten over the last couple years? I just think Hasbro needs to hone in and really make these figures feel a bit special, because they're really lacking in some of getting the design accuracies wrong, and the Minicons missing, and some of the design issues and quality missing on some of these figures. But yeah, thank y'all for watching this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!